All rise for the Honorable Judge Taylor. You may be seated.
Are there any final statements to be made?
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I concede that you're an intelligent group of law-abiding citizens who have been given the difficult task of reaching a verdict. The truth. That's what the verdict means. It's Latin for the truth. Now that's all we want, isn't it? I am certain that after hearing the facts of this case, you all will be able to conclude beyond a shadow of doubt that Mr. Robert E. Lee Ewell is guilty of second-degree murder of an innocent man, Mr. Tom Robinson. As the morally upstanding people of this community, I have no doubt that you will not be swayed by a lot of hogwash. You will be able to decide between right and wrong, good and evil, honorable and disgraceful, black and white. I present to you Mr. Robert Ewell, a man who's disgraced his family and his community for years. He has no ambition to better himself or his children. This is quite evident, given that he lives by the dump in a dilapidated shack. He's a rude and indignant drunk who spends all of his welfare on booze instead of caring for his children. Mr. Ewell has the respect of no one and only feels superior to the black man and woman. Not only is he racist, but a liar. As we saw in the previous rape trial, his statement did not match the accounts of his own daughter Mayella's statement and was seriously questioned again when Mr. Robinson took the stand. And ladies and gentlemen, do you seriously think a man like this wouldn't do harm to another human being? I know you can see it just as clearly as I can that Mr. Ewell wouldn't hesitate to carry out the violent threats that have crossed his lips. He's beaten his own daughter without an ounce of remorse. He has stalked and terrorized Helen Robinson, the wife of Mr. Tom Robinson. He is the prime suspect for the breaking and entering of Mr. Judge Taylor's home. And the last one, he threatened and spat on Mr. Atticus Finch's face. And you know what he said? It will take me the rest of my life and I will get you back. And you know what he did? He almost killed Mr. Finch's children. Is this proof enough that he's a killer? He clearly has motive and he has targeted every person involved in the rape case. Although nobody saw Mr. Ewell pull the trigger, circumstantial evidence reveals that this man, filled with hate and anger, not his daughter Mayella, convinced the guard to shoot Tom Robinson 17 times. Bob Ewell wanted Tom Robinson dead because Tom was the only other witness at the scene of the alleged rape. Tom knew the truth, but Bob wanted to silence him for good. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I ask you, how safe do you feel with this man living free in our community? He's a menace to himself, his family, and all of Macomb. If we do not put him away now and take charge, who knows what more he's capable of? Are you willing to find out?
Would you let someone innocent be prosecuted for murder? Bob Ewell sits here before you as an innocent man, yet the prosecution dares to proclaim him guilty. I know you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, are not ones to be fooled. I know you would have put poor Mr. Ewell in jail for this crime he did not commit. No, you're wiser than that. So here I stand to tell you the truth once and for all on behalf of Mr. Ewell. Bob Ewell did not commit a crime. he had nothing to do with this unfortunate accident because it was his daughter, Mayella Ewell, who forced him to unknowingly lie on stand. There is no substantial proof available that Mr. Ewell here committed murder or manslaughter of any kind. And this is because it simply didn't happen. However, there is such proof against Mayella Ewell. Mr. Ewell is simply a family man in small Macomb County, trying to provide for his family, when his daughter takes advantage of his kindness. Mayella told Mr. Ewell, her own good father, that Tom Robinson had taken advantage of her. This was a lie, however, as we saw when she testified with the guilty demeanor on stand showing through her falsified story. Mayella not only ended Mr. Robinson's life, but she's now trying to end her own father's.
Oh snap!
Mr. Ewell is also thought to have hit his daughter in the face. Now, given this may be logical because Tom Robinson had no left fist to punch Mayella on the right side of her face with, but who's to say he didn't do so with his right fist? And besides, what motive does Mr. Ewell have to abuse his own daughter? Mr. Ewell did not hurt his daughter. Mr. Robinson had to defend himself against Mayella, forcing herself upon him, and did so by punching her. I understand that some of you find Mr. Ewell to be strange and distant from the rest of the town, but look at him. Now, does he look like he could purposefully, especially, kill another man? Ira County should give this man a second chance in portraying himself in the true light of day. Put aside all of your prejudices and put yourself in his shoes. He's struggling to make ends meet for his family when he comes to see a man alone in a room with his daughter. When he races towards the house to see what's wrong, his daughter is beaten and is explaining to him how Mr. Robinson treated her. This was all a lie, as we all know. But in his sheer paternal blindness, Mr. Ewell didn't realize this at first. He testified in Tom's trial against the man, although all Mr. Robinson truly did to Mayella was beat her in self-defense. Now, I understand that Mr. Ewell isn't exactly impartial to black folks, but who is in Macomb? Racism does not identify murderers. Evidence does. And there is no evidence against Mr. Ewell to say he did such a thing. And to make their case sounder, I'm sure the prosecution will ask why Mr. Ewell seemed so frazzled at Tom Robinson's trial. This is simple, really. He was so overwhelmed by the thought that Robinson could have done such a thing to his daughter. Passionate, irrational anger overcame him. Now he knows, however, that his daughter had lied to him. It is incorrect, not only immoral, but illegal to allow Mr. Ewell to be charged for this crime. The law states that there is a presumption of innocence, meaning that Mr. Ewell must be proven beyond reasonable doubt that he has killed Tom Robinson before he can be charged for such. The prosecution simply has not done this, as I'm sure you've concluded. Now remember everything you've heard in this case, and decide this one thing. Bob Ewell is innocent.